Welcome to Maintaining a Balance video 5. In video 5 today, we're focusing on the following dot points, looking at the composition of our blood, what is carried in our blood, and looking deeper into the structure specifically of red blood cells and the pigment they contain, haemoglobin. And then we're going to quickly look on how we can complete the final dot point of this section, and that is using a microscope to estimate the size of our red blood cells. If we think about blood and the components of a mammalian circulatory system, it has a few main components. We have to have a pump, and in our case, it's the heart. We have to have the fluid that's pumped around. In that case, we're talking about the blood. And then we have to have a series of tubes in which this fluid moves, and we're talking about our blood vessels. The purpose of our circulatory system is to complete these 4 functions. So one of which is transport, and that is to make sure we're transporting water, gases, nutrients, and waste around our body. Another function is to clot our blood, and that's really helpful when we're trying to repair damage, especially to our blood vessels, and it makes sure that we seal off any wounds to prevent any further blood loss. Another function is to defend ourselves against diseases, and that we're talking about white blood cells and how they fight against infection, specifically their ability to produce antibodies which provide immunity against any further attacks to our body. And then our final one, which we've covered previously in temperature regulation. So we're talking about vasodilation and vasoconstriction, which helps to control heat loss and heat gain in our body. If we think about blood, we're talking about the blood that makes up our body, and it's roughly about 8% of our body weight. If we were to centrifuge it down so it solid particles will fall to the bottom, we're looking at the different structures here in this diagram, and we're talking about all the different components that make up our blood here. We can see that our plasma, which is 55%, majority of that is water, so that's really important that we're maintaining our osmotic balance, which we'll cover in some future videos. But then we're looking down here in our heavier particles from our centrifuge, what makes that up. So we can see here that the majority of our blood is made up of red blood cells, and then we go to white cells and our platelets. We have a few more scientific names for those components. So erythrocytes, leukocytes, and platelets are still platelets. Which you can and will be used interchangeably in this video. So we talked just a bit previously about the composition of our blood, but we look at our blood as containing 5 main components. We've got our plasma, which is a sticky, straw-coloured liquid, majority water, and that helps to carry our salts in the solution around our body. It helps to maintain the pH of our blood, but mainly this is helping to transport the rest of these cells around our body. If we think about our erythrocytes or our red blood cells, they're biconcave in shape, and we'll cover that in a few slides' time. Because of this, they're thinner at the center because they have no nucleus. They contain a special pigment called haemoglobin, and that's one of our dot points to look at the advantage of that, and we're going to look at its structure and how that functions in a moment also. Its main job is to transport respiratory gases, so specifically oxygen and carbon dioxide.